Hello, it is the mid-year book freakout tag. This is a tag that was originally done by Shami and Ellie. Shami, this is that. This is that Shami is become more of a lifestyle booktuber. Seems actually she is now left is kind of taken a break or has left booktube she feels. And Ellie at Earl Grey Books, who is still going strong, and definitely someone you should check out. I'll put a link to her below because this seems to be one of these tags that has had a great for the internet a great long life, and so she is a venerable institution. She has become, or at least she's contributed a venerable institution to the thing. She's actually seems to be quite a just a delightful person. So yes, the book mid-year book freakout tag, where you kind of review what's happened so far in this half of the year, which I'm still determined I'm still in that half of the year yet. Now, it starts off with what I think is the climax, which is what is the best book you've read so far in 2023? I'm not quite sure yet. So let's answer the other questions first, and then we'll circle back around and see if me talking about these books actually gives me a decision on that. So number two is, what is the best sequel you've read so far in 2023? That would probably be Sovereign by C.J. Sanson. This is a part of the Shard Lake series, all about set in its historical mystery novels that are set in the time of Henry VIII. And Shard Lake himself was, at the very beginning of the series at least, was one of Cromwell's men, as a lawyer, kind of doing deeds for his very scary master. And I find this series really great in conjunction with sort of all the reading I did of Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall series, and reading really good biography of Cromwell. That it fits right into it, but it's very much kind of lower level. And that's, I think, one of the things that you see in this is like there's the figures that get mentioned, like the top level figures that get mentioned. There's some of them that Shard Lake has made enemies of, and that is really bad news for somebody who is a peon, someone who is below the notice of history, but he has gotten in the way of a powerful dude in this novel. So yeah, that would be that, and it's really well written. So that would be my probably the best sequel I've read this year. A new release that you haven't read yet but want to? I don't have one. Most anticipated release for the second half of this year? I don't really do that. Number 5, your biggest disappointment. I've probably got a couple of those. There's The Grey Bastards by Jonathan French, which is this half-orc novel. And it's a novel that's, unfortunately, the whole premise of the book and why there's half orcs around is that human women have been raped by orcs, and these are the products of that. And without going into it in detail, I find, at least in the first novel, that's that kind of the misogyny against females continues on in the book, past that kind of founding. Like if it was a book that was kind of engaged in kind of like the really fucked upness about this, but it's a very male book. It's told from a male perspective. I hear that later in the series you actually do get a female perspective, so that might change. But having read the first book, it left a real sour taste in my mouth. So that was one. I mean, probably the biggest disappointment though that I had was probably Harlan Ellison's collection of short stories, I Have No Mouth, But I'm a Scream. I had read another book of his. I read another Harlan Ellison book, a full novel, which of course I can't remember the name of at the moment, which was a kind of a rock. It was very much kind of about rock music and that kind of thing, early rock music. But it was like one story. And unfortunately, with a collection of short stories, you start getting a real theme going here. And unfortunately, the real theme going in all of these short stories was basically that women are really nasty and will fuck you over. And in one of the stories, if they get sexually assaulted, they're going to actually enjoy it. I found these. It was just like there was a cumulative thing of just how grubby and kind of narrow and dated these stories were. I've said in the past, it's funny. I can read stuff that's like that's like in the 19th century or earlier. That'll be like, okay, yeah, there's misogyny, there's sexism in them, but it's like, oh, it's a different time. But Harlan Ellison's these are books. I think it's like the 60s, 70s ish in here, and that's contemporary enough that it really vibrates of like, oh, this is kind of within my lifetime, within my lifetime, and so it burns more, even though you get people criticizing shows like Friends, which when you watch it at the time, you thought, oh, it's kind of slightly kind of progressive for its time, but now you watch it back, now you watch it now, and it's like, oh, it's the kids are saying it's problematic, but it's really clangs to me. Also, I just didn't find it worth the effort. Actually, I like if it had brilliant. I find his narrative voice is kind of, it's got a shtick to it. It's like, hi, kiddos. It's like there's a fake false kind of a voice that he is going for in these stories, which also really clanged. And just the stories themselves. I think the title story, I Have No Mouth But I Must Scream, is vivid in its kind of a technological horror hellscape of an AI is taken over, and the last surviving human beings are being slowly tortured by this all omniscient presence, godlike AI that is really pissed off that it has been created, and it's got the representatives of who created it, and it's pissed off. That was a striking story, but I have to say a lot of the other stories I don't remember. I don't care to. So yeah, that's probably the biggest disappointment, is that Harlan Ellison thing. I would say the biggest surprise I had was Machine, by Jennifer Pelland. I have had this on my Kindle forever and ever. Well, not ever and ever, but like I think it's like came out in like 2012 or something, and it was like I think that was definitely the biggest surprise of like, I was like, it wasn't something like, oh, maybe I heard amazing reviews at the time. It's one of these things of like, you download something on your Kindle, and then you come back to it 5 or 6 years later and go, oh, why did I get this? I have no memory of why I picked it up in the first place. But I'm really glad that I circled back and actually read it. Now, I will put the proviso out that this is a book that deals with body dysmorphia, that has lots of scenes of self-harm in it, specifically really, it's cutting and stuff like that. This is a woman who, for medical reasons, has been put into an artificial body, with her mind, her memories, her personality inside of this body, and she immediately kind of starts dissociating and starts cutting herself to make herself feel real. So if that's stuff that is going to trigger you, this is not the book for you. That is something that's going to really take you to a place. I am definitely looking at this from the outside, because there's body dysmorphia. It's in some ways it really reminded me of some of the trans authors that I've read books about, their books. Just this idea of I'm in the wrong body, or I've made a transition into a new body, and people want to put me back in my old body again, and I'm fighting to stay away from that. Also, a lot of kind of really kind of kinky, transgressive sex in the book, of themes of pleasure and subjugation, and this is J.G. Ballard's Crash, or Daryl, that I read by Jackie S. Last year. That it's that kind of a level of erotic. You may not find it erotic. I guess I did find some parts of it erotic or arousing or interesting on that level, and that is something that's very individual to people, so don't quote me on that. but yeah. So that might not be your thing, but I found it that way. So that which might also be a thing of people like, sex in books seems to be it's a very delicate thing to do at the very least. That the what will turn one person's crank won't another. And I mean, I don't know if it's not like I'm thinking that like this is a pornographic book, but it is a strangely erotic book in its frankness with how it's dealing with this woman's desires. And yeah. So I really I found that's probably my biggest surprise. I'm still really thinking about that book a lot, which is probably why I've paused and talked about it so much. Um, Number 7, favorite new author. Let's go. Let's just do big swerve, and I'm going to say Barbara Tuchman, and her The Distant Mirror, all about the 14th century Europe, would be my favorite new author to me, because this was a book I think was written in the 70s, and I just like on a sentence by sentence, kind of paragraph by paragraph level, I found this book really clicked over really well. This is something that I read through Steve Donahue's the his he was running he is running, I hear, a book club, and it's like, oh, Steve's reading that. It's like he's really got a good Steve Donahue has good taste in nonfiction, and yes, he does. This was a really well written book, and I want to pick up more by her. Actually, it's funny because in connection with this, I was listening to the New York Times podcast, and they were talking about Cormac McCarthy dying, and also Robert Gottlieb, who is a famous big editor, who I guess his most famous thing is working with Caro on a giant Lyndon B. Johnson biography, which I hear is good, but I mean, it's probably not my thing. American presidents, I'm Canadian. Why am I going to get so deep into that? I suck up enough American stuff as it is. But they also passingly mentioned that this great editor who worked with so many great people also worked with Barbara Tuchman. And I went, oh, really? And so I went to the end of my copy, my digital copy of A Distant Mirror, and there was Robert Gottlieb's name in the acknowledgments of how, and her thanking him for how much he had his attention and stuff like that had improved and tightened and just thing. And it was like, oh, it's one of these people that if you're not really a bookish person, you wouldn't know about, but could make a big difference. So yeah, that's maybe it's my favorite new editor too. Getting to him at the very after his career is definitively capped by his death, but yeah, it's good to know. Number 8, newest fictional crush. I for this, I think I'm going to go with the romance novel that I read, which is Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellafleur, and I will just say the romantic sapphic couple, the two female leads, Darcy Lowell and Ellie Jones. They're kind of light, frothy kind of thing. If you're going to have like I enjoyed them having a romance. That's the kind of book where you should have crushes on characters. Your newest favorite character. I don't know. Yeah, newest favorite character. I mean, a favorite character of mine was in Machine, which of course I can't remember his name now, but he was there. So there's this whole underground group of people who've been transformed over into artificial bodies, and they want to do mods and stuff like that, become more machine-like. They want to kind of divorce themselves. Like, I have a machine body. I want to be a machine. That's the title. And there is this character who is their who is the one who assists them in this. He is human, and he sort of gives me the kind of the sense of like what you might consider is considered a chaser, somebody who's finds a certain group very attractive, where it's like, I guess you hear like I hear that in like the trans community, or like in kind of a chubby chaser, or kind of somebody who's like, you almost get like this is your fetish or something like this. And it was just interesting watching him throughout the book. I mean, the main character is also engaging, but I was interested in him. I don't know if that means it was just like, yeah, he was intriguing. He was intriguing. Yeah, I'll put him down, even though I can't remember his name. Check out the book and you'll know who I'm talking about. Um, Number 10, a book that made you cry. Um, I don't think I'm being sarcastic here. I think I put Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, A History of Nazi Germany by William Shire. Definitely getting some good nonfiction this year. And I think that may have taken me from last year to read it, to get to it, to this year. And, it's good to, I think Nazi Germany is such a, it's so omnipresent. You actually, if you can fool yourself into thinking you know the details, just because you've kind of, oh, osmosis, I know Nazis, they're bad. But actually kind of going through and just like kind of the totality of control and just the vileness and what they did in detail, in, and I know this is a popular, this is considered, this, some people criticized it for being kind of a more popular history sweep. It's like, it's well told, and I think it does its job really well. And yeah, if I think about something, and I don't mean, oh, tears running down my thing, but I'm just thinking like, you read something like that and you do feel sad. You do feel sad about, yeah, these were human beings who did this, and we all have to share that. We have to share that all together, all of us, and reflect on what our own governments do to peoples, in much smaller scales than what the Germans in Nazi Germany did, but we're parts of governments that also do. I know, just speaking as a Canadian, have done and are continuing to do really shitty stuff. And yeah, so that would be the book. Number 11, book that made you happy. Okay, Pernisi by Susanna Clark. This book made me happy because it is. This book is, to me, is like joyful fan fiction for C.S. Lewis's The Magician's Nephew. This story is a direct working from that, and that just made me super happy. And if you know The Magician's Nephew and you know Piranesi, there's a quote from The Magician's Nephew at the beginning, one of the quotes at the very beginning of the novel from The Magician's Nephew. Susanna Clark is calling her shots here, and she hits it right out of the park, and I really enjoyed it. I that's one of my favorite Narnia books, and yeah, she gets it, and it's like, oh, that was a joy. There's that kind of bookish delight that you can have. Number 12, what is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received? I'm mostly an ebook guy. There, it happens to be sitting right there. It's Davy by Edgar Pangborn, with a super cheesy cover of a guy in a loincloth with a French horn. So 70s, with this airbrushed Farrah Fawcett hair, naked people kind of doing some grappling, not nearly as sexy in the book so far. I think I'm only halfway through it. Because it is a paper book, it takes me, I've put it down, to be honest. I need to pick it up again and probably get through it. But for the most part, I read ebooks, and I'm happy with that. I can read them in the bath because I can jack the font all the way up. So yeah, we'll do that. What book do you need to read by the end of the year? The book that I need to read by the end of the year is Orlando Furioso by Ludvigo Aristo, which I am on book 2, canto. I'm about to start Canto 43, and I have to say the book has kind of trailed off a bit. Yeah, it feels like the Orlando plot feels like it's finished, which is, it's kind of weird. And now we're going on for more. I do like Ronaldo, who seems to be who we're following at the moment, but it's like Orlando suddenly became less interesting. yeah, I'm not gonna I won't do plot spoilers for a Italian Renaissance epic poem because I don't want to spoil it for everybody out there who's just waiting to pick it up next. This is the Barbara Reynolds translation, which is definitely fun. But yeah, that's the book I'm reading. I read out about 10 stanzas out loud to myself each day, and so I've been going through it slowly, which has its positives of just kind of getting into that language and stuff like that. The negative is I started this like last year sometime, and it's like, who is this? What's that? Who's that? Who's Ronaldo's wife? Who is he? Who is he pondering? He's about to drink a chalice, which will reveal to him whether his wife is cuckolding him or not. Because this book is all about male rage and also about male anxiety and who's cheating on me? Am I a cuckold and everybody knows it? Strange back tie-in with Daryl and from Jackie S and his obsession with cuckolding. Dudes, we are a weird, straight dudes especially, we are a weird bunch. Trust me, I'm one of them. I know. So yeah, that is the book I need to read by the end of the year, which probably is going to be like a couple of months, maybe one more month, and I'll probably be finished that, and then I'll spend a couple more months trying to figure out how to talk about it. So yes, that is 13. So that then brings me back around to the best book you've read so far in 2023. I would probably say, okay, there's fiction and there's nonfiction, because I've read like 3 or 4 nonfiction books. I've just finished His Name is George Floyd, which was really good. There's that. There's A Distant Mirror. There's The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. Probably The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich would be my best nonfiction book that I've read so far this year. Probably of the ones. I mean, this is one of these things where you get subject matter, and it's like there's so much, and you can tell that there's so much more to read about if you got the stomach for it, to read about that particular part of our history, that sad, fucking horrible piece of our history. So there's probably that. And then probably for fiction at this point, it would be Machine. Yeah, I think it's Machine. It's got enough weird, strange, disturbing stuff in it, and it's still sticking with me. It's one of those books that I keep on thinking about, and I probably spent the most time in just talking now about that's probably stuck with me the most. So yeah, that would probably be the one. That would be the best book I've read so far in 2023, I believe, because yeah, it's really stuck with me. So okay, that is the mid-year Freak Out book tag. Thank you, Shammy. Thank you, Ellie at Earl Grey Books for this tag. As always, it's a useful thing to kind of just pause and go, hey, how's my reading year going? It's actually going pretty good. Which I might have thought, oh, am I reading as much? Am I getting as much out? Because I'm not, obviously, you don't see me around here as much anymore. But no, my reading life definitely operates independent of a booktube channel. I am a reader through and through. The moment I stop reading is probably the moment I'm not around. Whereas the moment I stop posting videos on a booktube channel, it probably means I've wandered off to do something else, which is the way of things. But I thought I'd stop by and make use of this tag to gush and fetch and all the other words. So yeah, hi. How is your year going so far? If you haven't actually made a video in a while, why not use this video to chime back in on the conversation? All right, I've been Jay. More videos whenever.